All right, let's get right into it. There is a huge battle brewing over the apps on your phone. We are talking about Google, its massive Play Store, and a brand new set of rules from the European Union that are forcing some really big changes. So think about this for a second. If you're in Europe and you buy an app, or maybe something inside an app, where does that transaction happen? Right now, it's pretty much always through Google's own system. Well, that is all about to get a major shakeup. You might soon be bypassing Google Play altogether, and let me tell you, that could save developers a ton of money. And we're not talking about some tiny little tweak here. On August 19, 2025, Google rolled out a massive shift in its Play Store policies. And it's all because of these incredibly powerful new rules coming out of the EU. This is a huge deal for developers, for Google, and yeah, maybe even for you. To really get what's going on, you have to ask, why? Why is all of this happening now? Well, the reason has a name, the Digital Markets Act. It's this powerful new piece of regulation from the EU, and it's changing the game. Okay, so what is the DMA? You can think of it as the EU's new rulebook for big tech. It's designed to make things more fair by going after what it calls gatekeepers. A gatekeeper is just a fancy term for a huge platform, like Google, that's so powerful it basically controls the front door to the digital world for millions of people. And the DMA is laying down the law for how they have to operate. And look, this didn't just pop up out of nowhere. This has been in the works for a while. The act officially kicked off back in May 2023. Companies like Google had until March 2024 to get in line. But, well, by March 2025, the EU decided they weren't happy and formally charged Google with breaking the rules. And that is what set this whole showdown in motion. So, what did Google do that got them in so much trouble with the EU? This is where we get to the real heart of the issue. The charges are all about some very specific and very lucrative policies inside the Google Play Store. The EU laid out a few key problems. First up, something called anti-steering. Basically, they said Google was stopping app developers from telling their own customers, hey, you can get a better deal if you buy this directly from our website. They also called out Google for excessive fees. And finally, self-preferencing. You know, the classic move of making your own stuff show up first in search results. And let me be clear, this was not just a friendly warning. The EU backed up these charges with a massive threat, a potential fine of up to 10% of Google's global annual revenue. For a company that size, we are talking about tens of billions of dollars. Yeah, that definitely gets your attention. So when you're staring down the barrel of a fine that big, you tend to act. And Google did. They went right for the issue that hits developers' pockets the hardest, the fees. This is the change that has everyone talking. And just look at how dramatic this is. It's huge. Before, if a developer managed to guide a user from the Play Store to an outside purchase, Google still took a 10% initial acquisition fee. Under the new rules, that fee gets slashed all the way down to 3%. For developers, that is a massive, massive win. But it wasn't just about that one fee. Google's whole plan is really a three-parter. First, you've got that giant fee reduction we just saw. Second, they're bringing in a new tiered fee model for other things like security scans. And third, and this is super important, they're expanding their external offers program, which is the key that unlocks more freedom for developers to link out to their own deals. Okay, so this seems pretty straightforward, right? The EU wants more competition, developers want to pay lower fees. But what's Google's side of the story? Why do they have these restrictive policies in the first place? Well, they say it all comes down to one word, security. Google's position, voiced by folks like their top lawyers, is that the Play Store is a safe, walled garden. Their whole argument is that if they just let developers send users to any old website to make a payment, it could open people up to scams, malware, you name it. They're trying to frame this as a tricky balancing act, following the law while still trying to protect their users. And right there, that's the real tension at the heart of this whole thing. On one side, you have the EU, whose goal is super clear. Break up the power of these gatekeepers and create a fairer market for developers. And on the other side, you've got Google's stated concern, which is that opening up the gates too much could put user security at risk. So you might be thinking, why does a policy change in Europe matter to the rest of us? Well, because this is about way more than just one company in one part of the world. This could set a huge precedent for how app stores work everywhere. So what are the big takeaways here? Well, for developers, it means more freedom and, let's be honest, probably more money. For you, the user, it means you might start seeing more links to outside websites, which could mean better deals, but also potentially more risk. And for the rest of the world, everyone is watching. Because what happens in Europe rarely stays in Europe. This could be the first domino to fall in a global rethinking of how the entire app economy works. At the end of the day, this is about so much more than just fees and links. It's a fundamental test of whether regulators can actually rewrite the rules for some of the most powerful companies on Earth. So what do you think? Is this the future of fair competition? Or is it a risky experiment? It's a huge question we'll be watching very closely. Thanks for joining me to break it all down.